Hey, it's Lucas Ryder, executive producer and co-writer of episode 803, 16 Ounces. You're listening to the Blacklist Exposed on Golden Spiral Media.
I guess waiting 2 months was worth it for that explosive comeback. Welcome, everyone, to the award-winning The Blacklist Exposed podcast. I'm Agent Troy Heinrichs.
And I am Agent Aaron Peterson. And if I was wrestler, I'd want to rest too. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Thanks for joining us yet again for 16 Ounces, written by the law firm of Bokenkamp, Eisendrath, and Ryder, and directed by Andrew McCarthy. Show notes and other intel for this episode of The Blacklist Exposed can be found at theblacklistexposed.com. And I want to mention, because we just mentioned Andrew McCarthy, if you go to his Twitter, he had the best sleepy Bernie mittens of all of the photoshopped Bernie mittens.
I did not see Andrew McCarthy's. What was the? Give us a audio description of the meme.
It was from Weekend at Bernie's, and Bernie was replaced with Bernie.
Oh, that is fantastic.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Yeah,
I love that. That's awesome.
Bravo, Mr. McCarthy. Bravo.
Bravo, indeed. Well, welcome back, everybody. Happy 2021. In case you missed last week, we did talk to the Coop himself, Mr. Harry Lennox. So in case you are just coming in here for the latest episode 803, 16 Ounces, make sure you go back and listen one before, because we had almost a 2-hour discussion with Harry Lennox, and it was fabulous. So make sure you go check that out after you are done listening to this week's episode, where we go over the poll results from our profiling question of the week, get into this week's case profile, and then, of course, hear a special segment this week called Liz's Lectures. And then we will move into your special agent intel at the end of the episode.
Is that instead of Red's rhetoric?
Yeah, because Red was sick for most of the episode, so there wasn't much Red this week. So I went with Liz's Lectures this time.
Nice. I like it. And that Lennox interview is great, so definitely check that out. He talks about Zack Snyder. He talks about Spike Lee. He talks about his 30-year career. And small little side note, I told you personally off camera, I've been rewatching 24, because why not watch something that's like 20 years old when there's all this new stuff out? And I'm already, we talked about it in the interview, but I'm already in the season where Harry Lennox pops up.
You're moving along pretty quick then, because I am also watching a 20-year-old show in the West Wing.
Yeah, it's not as cool, because you don't hear, damn it, every 5 seconds. And Copy That. I started a drinking game with Copy That, and I stopped a drinking game very quickly with Copy That in that show, just so you know. But we're talking about Blacklist. We're not talking about 24. So our profiling question from the previous week was the woman who red shot fake cat or real cat. Was it the fake Katarina or was it real Katarina Rostova? Our poll results are in. Twitter fans say 70% to 30% fake. Podcast Facebook fans 80% to 20% fake. So overwhelmingly, that's a 75% average. Say that is a fake Katarina Rostova. She is not the real deal.
So that means, at the end of the day, that
nothing, because it's an opinion.
but it's an overwhelming majority of the audience that thinks that it was a fake cat. So that means if it was actually real Katarina, then the show is actually doing pretty good, because they duped us all. Well, at least 75% of us anyway. After
this episode, where do you stand? I'm a little closer to 100%. Honestly, it's fake cat.
Oh, I was 100% fake cat before this episode.
Well, I always try to keep something open, just in case I'm wrong.
Sorry, I was 99.9% last episode, and now I'm 100%.
Yeah.
Or if you want to still keep it open, then I was 99.9% last week. Now I'm 99.99% this week.
When everybody's like, you killed your mother, she'll never forgive you. She will eventually. Well, that kind of says to me all I need to know, honestly, personally.
City Wellington also said that this Katarina is not Liz's mother.
What?
Dom, Ilya, and Reddington know it. Red affirmed it. Dom and Ilya need a dead Katarina, not the real one, of course. Her theory is that she was hired and trained to play Katarina. We don't see the young Katarina in Belgrade. Don't rush, people. When Liz will have all the answers, the show will be over. Fake Katarina needed to expose the real Katarina to save herself from the Townsend directive. And that cat story, Schrodinger's cat, dead and alive, it's really just the cat in the hat. I believe that was the theory after the Belgrade episode, was that this was
exactly what we said.
Trained and hired person to take the fall.
Yep. And
I want you to listen to my plan.
Sure seems to be. What happened? Oh my goodness. It's coming true.
Well, what about next week, Aaron?
So don't forget to answer our profiling question for this week. Is Liz right? Would Reddington ever kill Elizabeth Keene? Because she flat out said, you can't kill me, neener.
She was pretty adamant about that. She was pretty full of herself.
I dug it. I really dug it. And you know what's funny? I can't wait to talk about this episode because this is exactly the kind of episode where 90% of the fans are going to hate Liz. I'm in that 10% that loves it. Because I'm with her. Shoot him. Shoot him in the head. Get some answers. That's what I say.
Yeah, before my wingy delivery arrives for my dinner this evening, let's go ahead and get into this week's case profile.
Okay, well, usually we start for those. It's been a while, so if you haven't listened for some time or you're new to the show, we always start with the crux of the episode, whatever the blacklister is or the main story is, and then we dive into the characters because that's where you get the meat of the story. Well, guess what? Whole story revolves around the characters. So we're just going to jump right into it. But where we left off is Katarina Rostova has been shot, the one that we know or we think we know, and she's dead, her body's gone, and Liz is gone. Red's gone. Russ is on the case. Reddington and Keene are long gone from the scene, and Liz is now on a mission to kill Reddington. That's the episode. Now, we kind of knew this going in. You know, you see some previews here and there, and, you know, it's been a long wait. Did you think it was going to go the way that it went this episode? First off.
Yeah, I did not think that this was going to be the Liz versus Red immediately one episode after the events of the last episode. I thought we'd get a little bit more build up before that toe-to-toe actually came to be. So I'm really interested to see where the rest of the season's going to go, because I thought that was going to be most of the season was chase Red, find him, and then eventually get to a point where she could kill him. She almost got him twice in this episode. I was like,
I know, I really dug that too.
Yeah, we're not wasting any time in season 8, people. Chop, chop.
I mean, I was telling you at the end of last season how excited I was at the prospect of Liz going back to her ruin motives or whatever, just basically where she goes back to ass kicking Liz Keene, and I was excited about it. And then the first 2 episodes, we didn't really get a whole lot of it, and now it feels like we are. And I was like, yeah, that's the kind of show I want. I want to see some of that because I am with her 100%. I'm glad they reminded the audiences that Red killed lots of people, and he keeps killing people, destroy this woman's life. I'm sure there's a good reason, but people got to get over their Spader love and realize that just from a character perspective, Liz Keene is the most wronged person in the show, and I can completely understand her mental anguish at this point.
Why don't you mansplain it to me a little bit more, Aaron?
Yeah, I'm going to, because apparently I got to do it for you, because Liz can't get through to you people. She's justified, all right? She doesn't need a man protecting her anymore. She needs to just let this girl fly. Let her spread her wings and fly, man. Mansplain it. I'll kick your ass.
Well, she's always got those men looking out for her, right? So she doesn't need you to tell the audience that she's a badass. She can do that on her own.
She does. She does it on her own. Listen here, Karen. I ain't got time for you. So I was very excited for this. And I know I'm watching it with, my wife is not a fan of the mythology being drug out. I am not either. I've said for a while it needed to be put to bed, and this really proved it to me. But we did get, and this is the only thing I'm worried about, okay? Because we've got the whole Liz confronted and said, and basically told Red, I'm not taking anything less than a confession or an explanation, right? As long as we don't backtrack from that. I like this. Forward momentum. But if we go back to where she's back on Red's side because he says one little thing that's going to put her off, that would really bother me. Would you agree with that?
100% at this point. We cannot go back to the I love you moment anymore.
With no answers. With no real answer. I mean, I guess probably if he explains that Katarina, if that is the case, explains that Katarina was not the real Katarina and here's why, gives an explanation as to where, I guess your version of Katarina or Katarina is in hiding, which is, so she's trying to be safe forever. Whatever the reasons are, if maybe that doesn't need to be made apparent quickly, but the fact that there is a fake Katarina and that was her, if that gets explained to her, I could make that work, but she's got to have some answer. And she deserves one.
But how do you know that answer, say it's good enough for Liz to be back on Red's side, is an actual answer or not?
Well, we need to see a real answer. Like, I think your audience deserves it. Liz deserves it. Everybody deserves a real answer at this point. So, and has, honestly, for a little bit. So I do believe that needs to happen very soon. If there's any chance for her to be back on Red's side, it has to be a legitimate answer to that question, which I'm sure that will come fairly quick. And then there'll be more to put to bed as the season goes on.
Right, because we still have the Sikorsky archive to deal with and N13 and all that other fun stuff.
Although I'm pretty stoked for the idea of a whole season where Liz is on opposite sides of the law from Red. Do you disagree with that? You're not on board with that? You want this to be short-lived or what?
I don't know if I want it like for a long period of time, only because it distances herself from Cooper and Park and Aram and Diego, and it's almost like, well, then what do those characters do? And then
Chase her?
Does it? Yeah, and we did that already. We did that at the beginning of season 3.
Was it 2, 3, whatever it was? Yeah.
Well, into 2, she shoots the guy, and then in season 3, they chase after her.
Yeah, right.
While she's on the run with Red as a counterpart. But now she's on the opposite sides of the law.
Interesting. Let's get into characters because that's where we really get into the meat of this. Let's start with music.
Yeah, and mostly Dave Porter score this week, but we did have a reprise. I never knew what the word is actually when it comes to music.
That's why I just say we go back.
Yeah. we flash back to last episode where we heard Martha's Dream by Nick Cave and Warren Ellis from the Proposition soundtrack, and made a comeback this week when Red and Liz are facing off with each other at Dom's house. Just fit again, so might as well use it. Loved it, especially right up to the point where he gets to the car and then the music stops and he coughs up blood on the window. It's like they're not going to blow him up this early in the episode, are they?
I was waiting for him to get in the back seat, like, because he's always in the back of a car. So I was expecting maybe that's how they got around it. He doesn't open that door. He goes to the back door.
I was nervous for Fisher Stevens for a little bit. It was like, oh yeah, we'll totally come with and we'll meet you at the lake. And I was like, oh, Fisher's going to open the door for him. That would have been
That's
bad.
another line. You chose that woman.
Poor Marvin Gerard.
You chose that woman over him. That's another line where it's like, oh, I guess it's not a real cat.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
And plus, he's all like, that man loves you, Liz. That's your house, by the way.
You got 5 acres of McMansions to build.
Exactly. So, yeah, Martha's Dream played again, and that was the only one we got this week. So you can go ahead and check that out on the playlist. We aren't going to put it on there twice, but it's already there over on the playlist on Spotify and Apple Music. Go over to theblacklistexposed.com for those links and get all the great music from 8 seasons of the show.
Yeah, and then you can get a reprisal of Martha's Dream.
So it is reprise, not reprise.
It's been reprised. All right, so we start with Park, and she doesn't have literally anything to do, but she does have one fun moment where she comes in where Wrestler is shirtless, and she's, pretty hot. It was a nice moment.
It was.
For the ladies. We got Wrestler. He actually doesn't get a lot to do except to get blown up. He saves Red and gets blowed up, and also gets to rest. I guess it's code word now. But before we get there, he finds Keen initially, and they have a moment in the hotel parking lot. 0 conversations about the kiss at that time. At that point when they separated, I was a little frustrated because I'm like, well, you just made out the episode before. Shouldn't we talk about this? Because that's what people do. But thankfully they came back to it, so I'm okay with that. And then Wrestler is the one that finds the explosive when it's under Reddington's bed, and which I do want to point out, it seemed pretty not very hidden. It was just like hanging there on the side. It seemed pretty easy to determine that is an explosive device. But he finds it, tosses it out the window, and it almost kills him and Red at the same time. And then, of course, we find out that the feelings are real because Liz shows up at his apartment once she thinks that she might have killed Wrestler. And now she wants to have a timeout and have a little rest time with Wrestler. Maybe when she says, I want to rest, it's not rest, it's rest. I want a little rest. Huh? You know what I'm saying?
She could just be sleeping on the couch.
Why would you go all the way over there to just hang out on the futon?
Because she just needed a place to crash for the night. And Wrestler gets it because Wrestler owes her one because she's the one that hid the body for Wrestler from the Brothers episode.
Nice try. I like that. But I'm getting, when she says she wants to rest, there's no tea in there. That's what I'm saying.
All the women on the task force love Wrestler.
I mean, his hair never moves. Like, who doesn't appreciate that?
I know.
That's a charming characteristic.
Is this the second time or third time he's been blown up? I mean, got blown up in the pilot off the bridge, and now he gets blown up in the hospital.
And you notice, right after he got blown up, his hair looked fine.
Yep.
It's like he's got shrapnel all over. He's got a gouging wound. He's shirtless. He's bleeding everywhere, but his hair's like,
well, it's because he didn't have to take his shirt off over his head. They cut it off of him because of the, scratches and glass that he had in his shoulder.
Yeah, that explains when he was blown against the bed and bounced around the floor. Sure, I get that. That works. Whatever makes you happy. What do you think about Wrestler? What do you think about this potential with their romantic relationship? Because now it's coming to fruition. Fans are either for it or against it. They love it or hate it. Where are you at with that?
I was like, I can't believe they brought back the birthday Wing Yi conversation. I thought that was really sweet. And I was like, aw, like he's going to miss having birthdays at her favorite Chinese place. This is so nice.
I'm impressed the writers remembered that, really, because I didn't. And when he explained it, I'm like, all right, I remember that. I knew you would.
That's where her and Tom used to go. And then he went as Tom's de facto because, Tom's dead.
Oh, God. Rejoice, right? Woohoo! One more round of applause for that. Tom's dead. I never get tired of that. Oof.
No,
okay.
I mean, it's hard to say, like, is this a true relationship? Is it not? Because of the whole kiss with the dupe to steal the gun in order to escape and all that fun stuff.
I think this proves it was a real relationship.
I mean, I hope it is.
Potential relationship.
Because she had that whole, like, you're my island, and I really want to be, with that, focus of truth and come to you when I need to be that light spot in my life. So that conversation has to mean something after the Brothers episode. So
I would like to see a little bit more. I feel, and maybe it's the way he's playing it, I feel like Wrestler could be a little less stoic in those moments, because I do think Liz is playing those well. Sometimes I think he's a little too stoic in those moments, but it could be he's just his Boy Scout demeanor. That's just the way he's playing the character.
Well, it could be that he's just that stricken. It's like,
could be. You just blew me up.
Look,
I'm mad at you.
Liz, like in season 3, I already chased you for 8 episodes when you did some bad stuff, and you did some bad stuff again, and I'm 5 years older and I'm tired. I got bad knees. Let's just sleep over in my bed instead.
Let's just rest. Let's go rest. Do you feel like this is a retread of a similar plot line then when you bring that up?
I mean, it is in a way, but it's not, because at that time she was partnered with Red. So the difference here is that she's against Red. But even still, she's broken the law, but she's broken the law the entire show. So that's nothing new.
Okay.
I mean, Cooper told her, it's like, don't you lecture me about morals.
Yeah, I love that. That was a great moment.
So,
well, speaking of, let's segue over to Cooper. Liz comes to Cooper and says she has all the evidence he needs because she has that audio tape that her mom left, and it's basically the exact conversation that we already heard for the most part.
Which is completely inadmissible in a court of law because Liz could have fired that gun. Nobody knows what those gunshots were.
That's actually completely admissible. Yeah, gonna tell you you're wrong. It's because she's dead. Now, if she weren't dead, well, actually, no, she's not a officer of the court, so it'd still be admissible.
But you don't know she's dead. All you heard was 2 gunshots and a missing person.
That's true, but it would still be admissible in court because she witnessed it. She said that. I'm also your eyewitness. I saw her get shot. And then
according to her.
Yeah, but she's an FBI agent. Trust me, that would be enough. That would be enough.
That killed the AG, that went on the run.
Still be enough. Yep, she's not wrong. There's plenty there. So they totally could arrest and prosecute Raymond Red Reddington.
I think the marshals.
And you know what?
The marshals
I don't blame
would have a better
her.
Chance.
No, I think this is concrete. I mean, he would go away for a long time. I get where she's coming from. She did try to do it the right way the first time, and Cooper basically threw her out because Red's too important. And at some point, you got to have a line, right? And she thinks that's her mother. That's what the thing I think fans are going to be really reactionary about. And obviously, we're recording this before we really seen the fans' reactions, so I don't know. I'm just going off my gut because of past history. I think they're all going to be so mad at her because there's so much love for Raymond Reddington. They're just mad at Liz for trying to hurt their beloved Raymond. And I get that. On the same token, this is very important to pay attention that she's tried to do what's right and no one will just do the right thing.
Yeah, she's had to should take matters into her own hands because she hasn't been able to get the right thing accomplished. Very much similar, like Reddington probably has done this entire time. You know, he's trying to do the right thing and he's taking bad people off the map, but he was wronged. And since nobody's going to look into how he was wronged, then he's got to take it into his own hands. So.
And there's a little moment here which I freaking love where Cooper's like, I was very clear with Red. He wasn't to hurt Katarina. And she's like, well, he really took that message to heart. And I just love how snide it was. I thought the delivery was great. Loved it.
The whole conversation with Cooper, she's just like, sir, come on, sir. Really?
But then he says, call me Harold. And she does say, you've always been honest with me, Harold.
Aww,
and then later, we get a lot of honesty conversations here. You've always been honest with me, Harold. And at the end, if I was you, I couldn't live with myself, is what that other commander says when he finds out what he's doing. He's harboring. Like you have, what's that?
The Marshal?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you do have Harold actually wrestling with his own integrity throughout this episode. And I think he's probably going to continue wrestling with it as we go forward.
Like, you think that'll be like a bigger arc for Cooper as we move along through the season?
I would think so. I mean, this is the perfect opportunity for that.
At some point, he has to question whether or not all the good work that they've done has really been good work.
Because right here, he set her off on this path. And, while he acknowledges that she didn't intend to do what she did later on, he also acknowledges it was still wrong. Well, she tried. I mean, I get that he's the honest character and whatnot, but she also came to you to do the right thing and you threw her out. You said no, because this is more important. Well, I want to know, is it really? You basically tried to justify, and Liz was absolutely right. He was trying to justify this woman's death. Like look at all these things she did. None of that mattered. It didn't matter. He killed her, period. And they had more than enough evidence. You don't need a body when you have that. So, and I know there is the no body, no crime, but eyewitness plus audio recording, plenty of evidence. Yeah, just saying. Well, later we get Cooper's chat with Red and says almost the exact same words as Dembe did. I'm not sure Liz will ever forgive you for what you did to Katarina. And that's where Red replies with, well, she might eventually. So what did you think of that little chat?
I thought it was interesting that they actually played that Dembe line in the previously on the Blacklist before the show started. So is that supposed to mean something? Because we all thought back when Dembe said it, it was obviously had a different context. Right here, Cooper's saying it, and Cooper's talking about this specific woman that we think is Katarina, from the park. So how do we take this line? Or is it a plug from the writers to say, hey, we're talking about the same woman? So was Dembe's line about this same woman, or was Dembe's line about redheaded cat or something else? But it was like it's like the exact same line. So that's why I find it very interesting.
So what's your theory? Captain Theory?
My theory is that I think Dembe was talking in the present tense about this Katarina. Therefore, Cooper is also talking about this woman in the present tense as this Katarina. So they're both talking about the same woman, but I still say fake cat.
Okay. I can go with that. I can roll with that. Man, poor Aram. He has some nice comments. He wouldn't do it. Red wouldn't do that. It's Liz's mother. Is it though? Is it though? And so he's a firm believer in Red in this episode. He's a firm believer of Liz in this episode. there's that sweet talk, and then Liz plays Ram to get that request or acquisition form out of his desk, and then goes to buy, explosives. So later, he learns that he is not really as much of a friend as he thought, because she played him and made him an accessory. And he says, "I'm there at the scene of your crime," which I love that when she calls later. That was really cool. Like, he's just like, "We're not on the same page anymore. Don't play me again. Thanks to you, I am a co-conspirator." And then later he tells Rustler, "I think this is over either way." So, Ram had an interesting arc here, because he goes from being a big believer in Liz at the beginning to basically tossing her out at the end because she betrayed him.
And I think that that's totally justified from our good friend Ram. He was pretty pissed off, I think. As
he should. I mean, she went and bought bomb stuff. That's not cool. You took my pad and you go and get some syntax? Really? What? It's not right.
I was thinking it was like, a Ram PhD. Just going to get some drugs, write her own script.
Yeah, he's got a prescription pad in there. We find out later that Ram also has a drug problem.
Well, he's got to do something for Elodie in order to help her husband back at the time. He just had it left over.
Oh, wow. Wow, that just happened.
We know where Rustler's dealer is now. I'm just kidding.
But I don't really feel like anyone's going to charge a Ram. I think that's just more like he's just...
Oh, that's just a Ram being a Ram. He's paranoid.
Just pack your bags. We're going on a guilt trip. Yeah. Which is totally fine because it works. So I don't think anybody should worry. He's not going to jail. He's not going to jail.
You shot a dude with a rail gun on the top of a tank. That would have got you into jail first before.
No, that was too badass. That was badass. Now, Dembe, I love when they're talking about how if it was right or if it was wrong, what he did to Katarina. And Dembe said it was not a mistake, but it was wrong. So what he's acknowledging here, from my perception, is that she needed to be dealt with, but it was wrong because you basically didn't do enough to explain to Liz who this person was. That's how I'm accepting it.
Right. And you did it in front of Liz on top of it. So it's like a double whammy. So yeah, absolutely. From our code of bad guyness, yes, 100% she had to be dealt with. But unfortunately, you done screwed up. R Red.
And you pushed her too far. And then Red's like, "I wonder." I'm like, "What do you wonder? If you pushed her too far?" Yes, we all know the answer to that. So I don't know what you're wondering about, buddy.
Yeah. We're all wondering, when are you going to finally tell her so we don't have to record this so late at night?
And we've said this for a long time. He could tell her. We don't have to necessarily hear it. She just has to understand it. You know what I mean? Yeah, like there's a way that the audience doesn't know until later. Yes and no.
They're sitting on a park bench and he goes, "Let me tell you the whole story." Camera pans out, fade to black over music. It's like the audience would go nuts.
We definitely would, because I think we deserve answers at this point. I think we agree on that. On the same token, do you feel like maybe the longer it goes where Liz is in the dark and she's going against our main character, who obviously fans love, doesn't it kind of take away from the show because you're basically creating backlash for a character in a way?
No, because we want to see badass Liz. We love badass Liz.
We do. I don't think the audience does, though. The audience never likes it when Liz goes against Red, because Red is the beloved character. People constantly forget he is a villain. I have this conversation every single week when he does something bad, and I'm like, well, don't be mad that somebody tried to avenge that. I mean, he killed 14 people and, somebody's mad about it. He's not a good guy. He might do some good things and have some positive motives in some aspects. That doesn't make him a good guy. There's a difference to me.
I guess we'll have to see how the ratings are.
Ambiguity.
Right? Do the ratings drop between this week and next week? Because then you'll know if the Reddington fans and Red Can Do No Wrong are watching the show, or if the Liz fans...
man, fans aren't going to bail from one. No, that's not going to happen.
I'm telling you,
you're just being ridiculous.
I'm telling you, badass Liz is better for the show. 100%.
You think so?
100%.
Well, it does get fans engaged because they're mad, right? They're just yelling at the screen.
Yes. I mean,
but I don't think they're yelling based on what I've seen, a lot of that is not yelling in Liz's benefit because it's against the almighty Reddington. That's the one people are enamored with. He's the cool bad guy. People love bad boys
Oh, I love
and bad girls.
deceptuous. Is that a word?
No, it is not.
I love Liz being deceptive with the whole like, oh, a rum, and oops, I spilled my coffee. She does that like girl, like, oh, woe is me, like so well. And then she like turns around and does something so badass off of it. It's so great. I love it.
I love this version of Liz. I've talked about this forever, ever since Ruin. I'm like, I just want more of that, pretty much.
I noticed
but I don't know how much of the audience does.
She was sporting the hoodie like she was in Ruin too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when the hoodie comes out, people are going to die. That's what we understand. All right, well, Dembe also apparently is a spiritual advisor, and apparently Reddington doesn't have a health care plan because he's not unionized.
He does. He just can only go to certain hospitals within certain times of where he gets sick. Because he was too far out. He was out of network, so the hospital couldn't come to him, so he had to go somewhere else.
Time to unionize. All right, well, moving on to the big two. Well, actually, Liz is really the big one, so we'll get to her in a minute. But Red does have some stuff happen, even though he's in a coma pretty much for part of this.
Yeah, he kind of waxes poetic.
A little bit. Marvin Gerard returns with Skip, and they take a peek at Dom's house and land, possibly think about putting up a few McMansions. That was an interesting development. At least we go back immediately after that previous episode that happened 2 months ago and revisit the idea that the house is there. It's going to be Liz. Liz is going to inherit all of this land because, it's her grandfather. He's looking wistfully. They have a conversation about how, Dom and I did not communicate he hated me for many, many years. And, we finally came together in the end or whatever that statement was. So that really feeds into one camp, I'm sure. It feeds into a couple, actually. It could be son as well. But there's some factors there. But what did you think about that moment?
Trainer-handler relationship potentially as well?
Sure. Possible.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think this is the big question. It's, why would Red leave everything he has to Liz? Dom leaving the house to Liz makes sense because she is theoretically the only living relative.
I like how you did that, theoretically. That's cute.
So can't leave it to Katarina because she's not around. So you got to leave it to somebody. So she leaves it to Liz. But I think that's the bigger question. It's like, why would Reddington leave his entire enterprise to this one woman? Like, what is it about their relationship? And we're back to that question from season 1 when the whole thing started. Like, why Keen? Why this day she started in the job? And now we're literally right back there. Like, why are you going to leave this to this one woman? What is it about her and you?
Why this one woman?
Yes.
Now, there is one thing I want, because I know a lot of people are like, well, that's because he's Katarina. I know that's,
That's because he's her father and he survived the fire.
That's not that. We know that's not true. But he's her mother, that whole thing.
A lot of people believe it.
I wish more people would at least stop and consider the possibility. I'm not saying the Red could be cat thing isn't possible. I'm not ruling that out. I've never ruled it out. So hold your horses. The real possibility, though, is that Katarina is actually still alive and in hiding. This was fake Kat that was set up to basically, so she could be in hiding and survive. And that Red is someone else who has helped her do that and is actually very, very, cares very much for Liz because he cares very much for Katarina. That is a very real possibility, and it doesn't get discussed enough.
It's totally plausible.
Sure is. Yeah.
Totally
no
plausible.
reason you can rule that out. You can't rule that out. So please just keep that in the back of your minds as a possibility.
Red and Katarina together right off into the sunset at the end of the show.
Could be. So Red's coughing up blood, basically, and that saves his life, which is ironic. Now, we don't really get a diagnosis. I even watched it again to kind of see, did I miss something? They still haven't said exactly what Red has. Do you have a deeper theory or idea of that yet? Is it cancer?
I was thinking it's got to be some kind of respiratory illness. So maybe he's got like leukemia or, a real bad case of COVID or pneumonia.
Don't you dare. Don't you dare. I don't even want to hear the word COVID. Ugh, I'm just so over it. I'm not, I mean, obviously it's a real thing. I'm not knocking that. I just, you know what I'm saying? Burned out.
Or potentially another thing could be like stomach cancer or esophagus cancer, trachea cancer, things of that nature. Maybe from a surgery to remove his Adam's apple. I don't know.
Lung cancer?
Could be lung cancer. But lots of things you could be doing inside of your chest area to cough up blood.
Yep.
So
we'll wait for the diagnosis on that. I do think that illness might help bring them together, but I don't know. We'll find out, because the phone call between Liz and Red was a gem.
Oh yes,
that
was the your life was totally boring because you realized I wasn't in it. Call.
Are you calling because you really thought life was going to be dull once you realized I wasn't going to be part of it? And she's like, no, I thought it was going to be peaceful, or it felt peaceful or whatever. And then she says that she can kill him. You don't have it in it to kill me. I can kill you, and that's why I'm going to win. And then he says, well, I have my liabilities, but I have more assets. And I don't think she agrees with that. I love that's because, you're old.
Yeah, she said old. I was like, damn. She went there. That's awesome.
She went for the jugular. So what did you think about this whole phone call? Because now, I mean, he is point blank threatened by this woman that he cares about for whatever the reasons are that he cares about. What do you think about this?
On one side of the coin, I think Red almost enjoys it in a way. He's like, "Ooh, good."
I didn't get that vibe at all.
A real enemy and a real test.
No, I didn't get that vibe from the way he played it at all. So I will disagree with you on that.
No, I think at the end of the day, he's concerned. I mean, he's concerned. Like, I made this happen. Like, I'm supposed to be your sin eater. I was supposed to make sure that you didn't turn into me. All that fun stuff from season 2. And like, here we are. She's almost worse than Reddington at this point when it comes to Reddington, not in general, but in this particular quest. And it goes back to season 2, right? When you have Red talking about Berlin. And he says, revenge isn't a passion, it's a disease. And right now, Liz has the disease. And I think that scares Red completely.
Yes. And he talks about how she might forgive him someday. But before that, I'm afraid she'll do something she'll never recover from. And that's when he's having the conversation with Cooper and says that we're going to put her number 1 on the blacklist. It's the only way we're going to get her out of this. I don't understand how that's going to do that, but I get what they want to do.
Yeah, it is truly the two father figures in her life needing to come together to finally be the parents that she needs. She needs a talking to.
No, she doesn't. She's 100. This is where we're going to segue to Liz, because I'm going to jump right on this bandwagon and say all the people saying that they hate Liz for what she's doing and all that sort of stuff. I am not with you. Troy may be, but I am not 100% behind Liz Keene in this right now. I am sick to death. I'm watching this and I'm thinking, if I'm in this world, if I'm wrestler, and, after obviously wakes up, gets some coffee and remembers all the things he did the night before, and I start reflecting on this, I think Liz Keene's 100% in the right, because I have said this for a while now. She deserves better than what she's gotten. I don't agree with how Red has treated her. Not telling her, even though it has destroyed her life, whatever the secret might be, it's also kind of doing that whole man thing, which I'm protecting you. I know what's good for you. I know what you can handle. I know what, it's my secret to keep. No, it's affecting and ruining her life. And now you basically, even though you kind of told her that it wasn't her mother, you didn't explain how that couldn't be her mother. That's what she needed to hear. That's what someone who is trying to be honest with someone would say. So that's on Red. And where she is mentally right now is completely on Red. I am 100% team Liz. So are you team Liz or team Red?
I'm team. They're both at fault.
Nope. Pick one.
No, it's truly
team
both,
Liz or team Red.
It's totally both their faults. I mean,
you're so wishy-washy.
No, here's why. Red is completely complicit in the fact that he could explain things in a better way that could give her enough information without breaking his rule that this is my personal information and you don't need to know anything about it. On the same token, we even got the replay in this episode from the last episode when he's talking to Katarina on the bench and said, I could have protected you. You went poking around and it cost you. And that's the same conversation he has had with Liz time and time and time again.
And why does she keep poking around? Because he doesn't tell her anything. And bad things keep happening to her and the people that she cares about.
If you don't poke around, the bad things wouldn't happen.
The reason he's there is because the bad things were going to happen.
Well, he was there.
Nothing bad was happening until he showed up.
Because he was protecting her from her husband.
Well, yeah. How well has that gone? Has that gone pretty well? I don't think it went very well.
I think it's all Tom's fault.
Yeah. Okay. So are you Team Red, Team Liz, or Team Wishy-Washy, guys? That's what I'm asking you. Those are apparently the options.
Team Wishy-Washy. If she doesn't poke around and do the shit that she's been doing, then at the end of the day, that probably not as much of this bad stuff would have happened in the first place.
Crap. That's such... Nope. I just can't accept that. That's just not fair. This poor woman has had her life destroyed. She has her kid has been in daycare for 16 years now or something. I mean, I'm pretty sure she's driving at this point.
Living with another family.
Yeah, whatever it is. And she still can't have a normal life. And it's all because of Reddington. And if he would explain it, maybe she would at least have some semblance of understanding as to why, but he won't. And even his closest associate has said, you're wrong for not telling her. So even Dembe said he's wrong. It's on him. And yet you're still, well, kind of, it's Liz's fault.
I mean,
sorry,
have
not
you,
buying it.
Have you never not had like one thing in your life where you're like, man, I hope nobody ever finds out about this?
Sure. Everybody's got a deep, dark secret. Everybody. There's not a single person. You listening, you got a secret. You know you do. I know that thing you did. But what I'm saying is if I knew that not telling someone would affect them, it affected their livelihood or their mental well-being, which it is painfully obvious that is happening to every single person on the show, and you still don't do it, who's the bigger monster? The secret or you? The person keeping the secret. And I say the person keeping the secret is the bigger monster. So anybody that tells me Red is a good guy because he's done a lot of good things and he's always protected her and da-da-da-da, she's a big girl. As she points out in this episode several times, she's tired of men saying that they're protecting her because her whole life is in shambles. And this one guy could solve that problem by just stop being selfish and explain it. Even in minor detail, explain it. Even this situation, explain it. He had plenty of time by the lake when they're going to do the ashes real quick. Say, look, that wasn't your mom. I should have explained this to you so you understood. Here's what happened. But he never takes the opportunity because too stoic or too caught up in his secret keeping, whatever. And this poor woman's life is destroyed. As a character, that woman's life is destroyed because of Red.
But you're only saying that because you don't know the answer. What if?
No, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me what the answer. I don't care what the answer is. It does not matter. It still has directly affected everything. And by every person in the show except for him, every person that has known the secret has agreed she deserved to know. Kaplan agreed. Dembe agreed. The only person that doesn't agree is Red. I think he's just wrong.
Kaplan and Dembe agree just because they want a vacation.
I'm serious, man. I mean, like at some point, I get that it's constructed that way and it's important to the show, and I understand that. But if you're looking at it from a realistic perspective, Liz Keene is the one that has constantly been screwed over.
I get that, but we're only seeing it in the context of not knowing the answer. What if knowing the answer actually did twice as much harm than what's happened to her so far?
Twice as much harm as her husband being killed, her kid not being with her. She can't live a normal life. Like, really? Really? You can actually put that in your head.
I'm just saying.
There's no secret. I don't care what it is. There's no secret that in my mind could possibly even come close to justifying why you wouldn't tell her at this point.
I just think that, there's things that need to be protected for reasons. He said this needs to be protected for reasons, and
his own. It's really his own. He's even said it's my secret. Mine. No. Well, we do learn that Agnes. I'm sorry, I went on my diatribe. We learn Agnes is still safe. Allison Thomas is on the move, and she's She's pissed. She says that she's an eyewitness. She'll testify. She gets tossed aside. And then she makes a statement, everywhere I go, there's a man who insists on protecting me. I love that line. I really, really do love that line. You know, I actually just recently had a conversation with my daughter about something where I said that I was protecting her about something else. And she made it painfully clear that, you know, I'm an adult, so you don't need to, you know, I can handle it. And she was right. She was 100% right. And that was my shortcoming because I think, you know, there is that aspect as a parent or whatever, right, is that you feel like you should keep certain things from your kids. Not at this level. Like once I know that their mental well-being is being deeply affected, you tell them. But you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I totally got that line. And I really appreciate it because it's a very honest and thought out, very thoughtful line, I thought.
Absolutely.
And apparently she knows how to wire explosives, which is handy.
But more importantly, she knows how to take apart a car first. That's really complicated.
It is, man. You know how many, that whole door panel would have fallen off if I tried to do that.
The window would have broke for sure.
Sorry, everybody listening. I did go a little passionate there, so I hope that wasn't too off-putting. She gave me all the proof I'd ever need. And she's right, but she doesn't get a chance to kill Red. So she goes to, because he has the, you know, the blood splatter effect. So she goes to Essie Jackson and asks for her help to get him to him in the hospital. That was a little surprising.
Yeah, I was kind of bummed actually. Usually when there's well, here, this is the plan that I think it is. And then they always like walk through the plan as they show you the plan at the same time. There's always like the cool heist music that goes with it. And I was like, where was the heist music? We needed the heist music in that scene.
I agree. But I'm glad she got a recruit, and apparently she was pretty easy to talk into, but she understood, you know, eventually you're going to be dead too. Yeah. So this is your way out. Made sense.
It's a shame that Frankie didn't last on the show from last season, because this would have been a great way to bring Frankie back into the mix.
Oh yeah. True. You know? True. I like how she got in there. She tells Red's guards that Keen's on the way to kill Red right now. She actually, you know, used that as the ploy to get in there. And then we find out she had checked out not 16 pounds or 16 ounces of flesh, or a pound of flesh, which is what we thought the 16 ounces title referenced. They got us. They did get us.
Yep. Good job.
But I do think that's a parable, right? Like they're going for the 16 ounces of semtex is the same as a pound of flesh, essentially.
Right.
I like the connection. I like that. So that's what she checked out, 16 ounces of semtex. And Arama's pissed, and now she's worried about Rustler, and she's getting a little rest. So
semtex is plastic explosives for people that have not looked up the definition.
Yeah, sorry. Bombs. Oh, that big brick. Yeah, it's a lesser form of C4, yeah. So what did you think about the whole Liz arc in this episode? And we do have her going full ruin on Red Reddington. Do you understand why she's going after him?
100% understand why. I'm just like, if this is the only guy that's going to give you the answers, why are you killing him? Twice.
Maybe she's done waiting. Well, she did say the only thing that's going to change is a full confession. Like, tell me what's up. Tell me the truth.
But if she kills him, she'll never get the truth.
Well, she's never getting the truth now. Or have you not been watching this show?
I'm just saying, like, do you want the truth or do you never want to know? Because more than likely, if you're going to kill Red, you're going to kill Dembe at the same time, because Dembe's always with Red.
If I'm her, put yourself in her shoes.
You'd rather have him dead than not know?
If I believed that was my mother, if I truly believed that was my mother, and you just killed her in front of me, I am with Liz Keen 100%. She has no reason to believe it's not, except for one flippant comment where he said, that's not your mom. She's just using that to get you. Okay, well, explain that to me then, because that doesn't make any sense. So that's where, you know, he could have done that himself. That's on him. I don't feel bad for him.
Yeah, and
I love you, Red, but
is she going to believe him even if she tells him? Even if he tells her?
At this point, well, I think she would believe him. Like, I think she does believe he won't lie to her about it. He just won't tell her. Because that's been true of the show.
And it's not like he might have told her on the way to the lake to spread the ashes, but he got sick before that could happen.
I don't think he was going to tell her anything. I don't. Not at all. You do? You really think he was going to?
He might have spun some kind of tale.
We talked about something that happened when he was a boy at a fishing village or some nonsense, well, somewhere there's a piece that Troy can pull out of it, and make sense, but she'll never understand.
And my God, Wu Lee pulled out this giant whopper of a fish. Couldn't believe it.
And now Reddington and the FBI are after her. I know how he does it, and we can do it too. So she's saying, I know how he does everything. We can get to him. You know, I can get this done. You told me to think like a criminal, and now I am one.
And when Aram looks at Wrestler and says, I think the task force is over, the question is who is going to be on Liz's team? Is Wrestler going to join up with the Liz army?
Well, I think Wrestler is going to be definitely kind of caught between two worlds. But she did say, like, this is basically a timeout. So tomorrow you're going to have to chase me and we're going to have to play this game again. But for tonight, can I just rest? You know, a rest. That's what I'm going with. Hashtag rest. So that's it. That's what happened. That's the full episode. I thought it was a really good episode. It was really fun and moved quick. And now she's going to be, as it's spoiled everywhere, she's number 1 on the Blacklist. We finally know who the number 1 on the Blacklist is. What do you think about that? Liz Keane being there, because it's episode 4. So you know nothing's going to get resolved in that episode.
Well, we always said that Liz would be like 1 or 2 on the list, like from probably 3 seasons ago. I'm shocked that it's not the last episode of the series. So this is an interesting switcheroo, change of pace.
But let's mention they've done this in the past where they use a character as the Blacklister. You know, Katarina Rostova is a prime example. And then many episodes later, you get the same character with conclusion. So you could get, in theory, Elizabeth Keane is number 1, but maybe and then you'll get Elizabeth Keane part 2 and then Elizabeth Keane conclusion. So it's possible that could go on a lot longer.
It's true. That is very true. We've also had it where Elizabeth Keane was the name of the Blacklister in this episode with the number 1, and then later on also had the name change, a la Bastion Moreau.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
It could be number 1 Elizabeth Keane, and then the final episode could be number 1 Masha Rostova.
Masha. It's going to be good. Next week is going to
really
rock.
Means?
What?
Who does number 2 work for?
Oh, my God. All right. Well, I want to take a quick second and say thank you to those of you that are supporting the show by going to Patreon. That's Patreon. That's patreon.com/theblacklistgsm. Special big thanks to our honorary Blacklister, Patricia. Also, special shout out to our task force members, Lacey, Marilyn, Judy, and Sharon. All those people received cool gifts from us, and you can get a cool gift as well for donating at the $20 level or higher. You want a cool t-shirt, coffee mug? Come on. You know you do. So you don't have to stay at the $20 level forever, just a few months to get the cool gifts.
Yeah, and some changes. Remember, this year we're putting out the podcast early for all $5 patrons. So if you're a $5 patron, you get the episode on Friday as soon as the show is over. The rest of you get it on Sunday. So make sure you head on over to Patreon. That's patreon.com/theblacklistgsm. Throw your $5 in the hat so you get the podcast first. And then stay tuned because we got much more show coming up right after this.
You obviously love podcasts, but are you also a fan of movies and television? Do you want to listen to a show that reviews entertainment honestly and casts pretentiousness to the wind? That debates both film and TV topics in a fun, good-spirited way, while still getting to the heart of why we all love them so much? Then don't miss the award-winning weekly podcast, The Hollywood Outsider, now available on your favorite podcast app or at thehollywoodoutsiders.com.
Hi, it's Megan Boone, and you're listening to Blacklist Exposed on Golden Spiral Media.
Welcome to Liz's Lectures, that part of the show where we relive some of those arguments or threats from Liz that may or may not turn into a greater storyline in the future. Then we will vote for our favorite episode and your favorite of this Liz lecture in our weekly web poll over on the website at theblacklistexposed.com. This week, our first story comes when Liz confronts Cooper.
You saw it happen?
With my own eyes, and I'll testify to it. I don't care what happens to me, but he can't get away with this. Say something.
I'm thinking.
About what? He murdered my mother.
A Russian spy who tried to bleed him to death? who had your grandfather shot, who our intelligence bureaus believe killed at least a dozen American agents for the KGB and the Cabal.
I know what she's done. None of it justifies her execution.
I'm not trying to justify it.
Like hell you're not. You're making excuses, looking the other way, like we've always done.
I was clear with Reddington. Your mother was not to be harmed.
Well, he obviously took that message to heart. You know why he did it? Because he could. He knew that no one on this task force was going to do anything about it.
That's unfair.
It's the truth. When he shot her, I wanted to run. Just get Agnes and go where nobody would find us. But I'm here because of you. Because I thought maybe you were the one person who still cared about what's right.
I won't be lectured by you on professional ethics. Reddington's out of control. I know that. I also know that I can't take him down without taking you down with him.
I don't care anymore.
Then I'll care for you. You kidnapped your grandfather. A felony kidnapping charge alone is enough to destroy your life, send you to prison, sever any relationship you have with your daughter. You may be disgusted by my silence, Agent Keene, but you will benefit from it.
Everywhere I go, there's a man who insists on protecting me.
Our second comes is when Red confronts Liz.
Admit it, when you thought I was gone, you realized how dull life would be without me.
If by dull you mean normal, then yes. And it was very peaceful.
What do you want?
I want to thank you. You told me to think like a criminal, and now I am one. You prepared me for this.
Maybe because you knew it was inevitable, but because you did, I'm ready, and I'm coming for you.
That would be such a mistake.
I don't think so. You're
Sick, you're old, you're an easy target.
Yes, I have my liabilities. But then, of course, I have so many assets.
Well, I have something you'll never have.
And what is that?
I'm willing to kill you. You don't have it in you to kill me.
and you never will. And that's why I'm gonna win.
What a terrible waste of your life.
Maybe, but it's my life.
Which is your favorite? If you want to finally take care of things yourself, vote #LizMan. Or if you have what it takes to finish the job, vote #LizDrive.
All right. Now, Special Agent Intel. That's where you get the last word. Marie Cruz writes in so that in the first episode, Rinko Zamani was dying and wanted revenge for the murder of his family. I can now see the parallel with Red. He's also dying, and I think he surrendered to the FBI to find answers about the murder of his family and get revenge. I agree that's possible. Could the plot be more about Red and his family and less about Liz? That's a great question. I don't think so. I think Liz is, well, I mean, it could be much more about Red. I believe that. But I don't know how Liz could not be a primary factor as prominent as she has been through the whole series, and how she is prominent to the reason Red even came to the task force.
But you have speculated over the years also that maybe Liz is just a ploy for a bigger game.
Yeah, I have thought that. I think it much less now than I did then, probably, just because he obviously has emotional involvement with her. Now that we've seen the whole Dom relationship play out and everything else, it just feels like there's more obviously emotional connection there than just as a tool. So I think that less than I used to.
All right. Well, the Vitali wrote in, said, the Sikorsky archive is part of it, at least, could be stored on Liz's DNA.
True.
DNA storage could prove to be perfect for someone who needs to store data for long periods of time, access it infrequently by long periods. We're talking like dozens, if not hundreds of years, because DNA is stable for millennia, which we all know from playing Assassin's Creed. You could basically store DNA practically forever. So is the N13 actually stand for nitrogen 13, a radioactive tracer potentially? Could that be the key to finding where the information is stored? What are your thoughts?
I don't know much about that. That sounds pretty kick-ass, though, as a theory. What about you?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I play Assassin's Creed, and that's exactly the whole, they ride the DNA to relive memories of the past. So memory manipulation, DNA, changes of the bones and all that other fun stuff we've had in the show. And the alchemist comes into play and the warrior gene. And there's a lot of stuff of that nature already in the show. So yeah, it's very possible we could have secrets on the DNA storage. That's a cool twist.
I love that theory. I will say, in terms of just Assassin's Creed, not this show, it's the worst part of Assassin's Creed. I don't like any of that stuff in that actual game, but it could work here. Absolutely. Absolutely. George, I'm going to say Newman because I want to say, oh, Newman. Says, enjoyed the Katarina podcast that included both the Red Arena and anti-Red Arena viewpoints. Thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed that. I am curious if either of you think there is any significance to the show having Lada wear the same black sweater with flowers in Dom's hallucination as she wore in the Rosviet scenes with Ilya in the motel room where they hatched the plan to become Red Reddington. I only noticed it on rewatch, but made me think that what Dom was remembering was his final conversation that he had with his daughter as he knew her. It may have been an extension of Rosviet, and that Lada's cot was Dom of the plan her and Ilya had developed, and he told her what you're planning. It breaks my heart. Was Lada in that sweater in his last memory of his daughter as he saw her from the rearview mirror of the Wagoneer? Or the wardrobe department is simply short on funds this season? No, I would totally agree. That's 100% intentional, and it's probably from his memory.
Yeah, I would agree as well. That was the same sweater from Rosviet, and I think that he was remembering the last time he saw her, or at least had a lucid conversation with her while she was wearing that sweater. Now, it could be that she wore the sweater the day on Rosviet, and then she did wear it a week later at the post office when you last saw her, potentially, but...
Yeah.
They were Russians. Clothing was tight after the Cold War. Just saying.
I don't even know what that meant, but all right. I'm with you.
Judy Miller also enjoyed the 802 podcast, and you both listing in very logical manner why or why not Red Arena and why or why not this Katarina was the real deal. My comments are related to Red Arena specifically, which I do not buy, even though I saw some hints toward it in 802.
Sure.
Main reasons I don't buy the Red Arena theory, however, though, is the house in Tacoma Park. That entire scene doesn't jive with Red actually having been Katarina. Disagree. But
I agree.
Red almost having an orgasm when seeing Liz with the blonde hair early in season 3. That one I still don't understand at all, but I haven't figured that one into my theory. So I'll give you that one. Can't see a father reacting that way, and certainly not a mother. Dom reminding Red that killing Liz is out of the question. Hang on.
I mean, I hate to say something in favor of this.
Oh, shit. Hold on, guys.
Well, no, but I mean, if it was like looking in a mirror, that would take you back.
What if red-haired Kat actually had feelings for blonde-haired Kat, and it reminded her of blonde-haired Kat?
Okay, now you're being ridiculous. I'm saying, what if, from your theory, what if it was like looking into a mirror and seeing yourself? That's what I meant.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
You're just being ridiculous, but continue.
3, Dom reminding Red that killing Liz is out of the question. Would a mother have to be reminded? Sometimes, if you talk to my wife.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's an important aspect.
Red saying that he entered Liz's life out of obligation. Cassandra noting he is staying in it for love. Obligation doesn't sound like a mother's love. It sounds like exactly what it probably was, some kind of debt owed. I think the show gives out hints for all of the different theories as a way to obfuscate the real answer. Anyway, sorry for the length of this, just passing along my thoughts. I don't care what theories anyone has, but I agree people will enjoy the show more if they don't get too invested in any one particular theory camp.
Oh, preach, Judy. That's the problem, right? Nobody can be like, all right, well, maybe I was wrong. Because nobody can admit they were wrong in 2021. It's against the law. Good thoughts, good points, and I agree with it. But I will say obligation doesn't sound like a mother's love. I'll make this one argument that there are many people who raise their kids because of obligation and then come to become parents as they learn to be parents. Because, if you have them young or you have them and you weren't intending them, so you might see them differently until you actually have them. So I can see that case, actually. Monica Stolfa, if Red is Red Arena, why would Dom say, I finally got to see Katarina when he has Red coming to see him throughout the series? Red also says that Katarina loves him, as in present tense. I think Red's big secret is that the real Katarina is still alive. Hey, I think I said that earlier.
On the first part of that, though, Dom is saying that he finally got to see Katarina because Dom saw his daughter in the female version of Katarina. That's what he means when he's saying that, if you buy into the Red Arena camp. Versus Red, who isn't really his daughter because he's not really considered Red his daughter for many, many years.
I'm with you. I've had that for a very, very long time, that I think Katarina is still alive and well and in hiding somewhere. And it's very complicated as to where she is or why she's there.
They have to get all of the DNA pieces and then reconstruct her in a computer simulation.
Oh, like Weird Science? That'd be sweet. What boy didn't try that in 1985, right? Makes sense to me.
What a weird tangent to end the show on.
Man, seriously, I remember I got like an Apple IIc, and I'm like, how do we do this? How do I make Kelly LeBrock? Please tell me. That would be great. Well, we got some cool stuff coming up because, next week is number 1. And who doesn't want to see where that's going to go? That's going to be interesting. I do think it's going to be one of those things where we come back to it later in the season. I don't think it'll finish in that episode. Do you?
I have no clue at this point. All I know is that I'm waiting to see if she wakes up in his bed or on his couch. Because even if she wakes up in the bed, do we really know that they had sex?
That is your problem, man. Like, nothing can just be plain as day. You really got to read way too much. If she wakes up in her bed, yes, she had a whole lot of rest. That's what I'm saying. Lots of it. And I'll bet you his hair is immaculate. That's going to be the best part. His hair is going to be perfectly coiffed.
But to quote one Aaron Peterson, if they don't show it to us on the screen, then it isn't really true.
It's also network TV. They're not going to show it on the screen. You'll see maybe some bodies writhing. I think you're just going to see him waking up and he's fetching her a coffee or something.
I don't know. I feel bad for the Keenlers. Like, I think this is they're this close. They're this close.
Well, I would be very bummed if I was wrestler and we got all of those lines and the whole, I want to rest. And then she just wanted to take a nap. Like, you had a place. You don't got to stay here. You don't need to come over here and get my hopes up. I already got shrapnel because of you. All right, well, that's going to conclude this episode. I'm going to get right back to trying to make my own version of Kelly LeBrock at home. So now is the time to recommend The Blacklist to your friend, your enemy, or your neighbor. And when you do, please also recommend they listen and subscribe to the Blacklist Exposed podcast. All the case profiles can be found at theblacklistexposed.com and everywhere great podcasts can be found.
For more great Aaron and Troy hijinks, follow us on your favorite social media outlet. I'm at Troy Heinrichs. He's at Aaron Smirks. And together we are at the Blacklist GSM on the Twitters. Talk about the show, the podcast, and whatever you do, please, please, please do not send us schematics on how to make homemade bombs.
Yeah, I don't want that. You know, in fact, I was actually I pulled up Google because I didn't remember how to spell semtex.
Yeah, I was kind of worried about that myself.
As soon as I typed it in and it came up, I'm like, oh, I just made somebody's watch list. This is bad. This is very bad. So this might be my last episode. I don't know if I'll be able to come back.
Because it was in the same browser where I had Hammer, Nails, and Instapot.
Oh, my God. Yeah, you're done. You're done.
They're coming for me tonight while I'm sleeping.
By the way, I've got an Instapot. I've used it once. It scared my wife to death, so I've never used it again.
You know that you can actually buy little dragon heads that go on the top of the Steam release, so then it looks like the dragon's like blowing smoke out of his mouth. It's really cool.
That sounds pretty awesome.
It's also practical because then the steam doesn't actually go up into your cabinets and ruin your cabinets.
Also very cool. But I'm more worried that the lid's going to blow off and kill me. That's really what I'm worried about. But now I'm more worried about Secret Service showing up at my door. So I'm going to hurry up and get done because I'm probably going to go into hiding myself. So here's our question. Don't forget our profiling question. Would Reddington ever kill Liz Keene? Yes or no?
We'll find out next week. Number 1 with a bullet. We'll see you then. Until next time, I'm Agent Troy Heinrichs. That's at Troy Heinrichs on Twitter. And if you want to learn more about me, just visit, about.me/Troy Heinrichs.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can hear me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast, as well as Remake This Movie Right. We are available at thehollywoodoutsiders.com or on Twitter at 5popcorn. Be sure to subscribe, download the app, submit your feedback, but most importantly, keep yourself off of the Blacklist.
The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.
Go get some rest. Wow.